Hiram Maxim developed the first practical machine gun, the belt-fed, recoil-operated Maxim. But the British firm of Vickers improved on it.
The Vickers machine gun is a recoil-operated .303 caliber, belt-fed, water-cooled machine gun. Really came to symbolize what the machine gun could do in trench warfare during the First World War. And that's because the system that is embodied within the Vickers, a recoil-operated action, a non-disintegrating canvas belt continuously feeding ammunition, and then a water jacket containing about a gallon of water to maintain an acceptable temperature for the barrel so that the firearm can continue shooting almost without pause. That basic anatomy is something that was in existence before World War I started, and that basic anatomy effectively describes the Vickers machine gun, which was adopted by the British in 1912.
It was essentially a variation and improvement of the earlier Maxim machine gun. Basically, it took two men to fire this gun, one to fire it and one to feed the cloth belt, ammunition belt into the machine gun. But in practice, this thing was heavy enough with the gun weighing 25, 30 pounds, the tripod weighing even more, 40 to 50 pounds, and then each box of ammunition weighing 22 pounds, that typically it would take a crew of 6 to 8 men for the Vickers.
Sitting behind a Vickers gives me the chills. I've been to the battlefield of the Somme, and I've seen what a machine gunner in that terrain could do to open infantry. Literally, I felt the ghost of no man's land sitting behind the Vickers. This was a gun that was very important at one of the most horrific times in human history. This was the gun that stopped the Germans in 1918. When you think about machine gun, a gun that all you have to do is get behind it and hit the spade grip, to hit those triggers. When I think of a machine gun, I think of nothing but the Vickers.
What can one say about the grand old lady of no man's land? It's rare to find so many people who are so fond of a big, heavy gun.
The development of the machine gun, especially the heavy water-cooled machine gun, rifle cartridge, really defined World War I. That's why the forces ended up in trenches, down behind barbed wire, and you had no man's land stretching from the North Sea to the Swiss border, several hundred miles. And it really didn't vary very much during the entire course of the 4-year war, and it's because of the machine gun. The steady staccato beat of pop, 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 pop is what really defines World War I.
Now, the final version of the Vickers, adopted in 1912 by the British Army, was still a pretty heavy gun. It weighed 33 pounds, and it had a 52-pound mount. This is not a light machine gun. This is a gun designed for sustained fire. It feeds from a cloth belt. And the Vickers machine gun, of course, was chambered for the British service cartridge .303.
The Vickers was also one of the earliest machine guns to be mounted on aircraft. It fired from a closed bolt, which made it more reliable in synchronizing with the propeller so that the machine gun could actually be mounted on the forward fuselage of the airplane, firing through the propeller, firing between the blades of the propeller as they passed by. And of course, the classic combination is the Vickers machine gun on the Sopwith Camel biplane.
The British did much the same thing with the Vickers gun that they had done with a great many other guns. They took a fundamentally sound design and changed everything on it that they didn't like or that bothered them. Somebody said, you know, the receiver is much deeper in a Maxim gun than it needs to be. And someone at Enfield said, fine, we will turn it upside down and we will open the lock in the toggle in the other direction. All kinds of little refinements like that went into the Vickers gun. And it remained in service from the First World War through the Second World War, through Korea, and even in Indonesia.
There's one fantastic shining example that historians they can't resist pointing to this one moment. During the nights of August 23rd and August 24th, 1916, during the Somme offensive, the Royal Army's 100th Machine Gun Company had set up a barrage, or 10 different firing machine guns, to support an attack. It was decided that to drive this attack home, that these 10 machine guns, or this barrage of machine guns, would lay down continuous machine gun fire for 12 hours. During this 12-hour continuous fire period, where the machine guns were positioned on a ridgeline looking down toward the German trenches approximately 2,000 meters away, they opened fire. And at the end of this 12-hour period of delivering continuous fire, they had expended just 250 rounds less than 1 million rounds. So, during a 12-hour period, 10 Vickers machine guns delivered this incredible volume of machine gun fire. One of the things that is so memorable about this specific example is that these 10 Vickers machine guns did so with almost no mechanical breakdowns. It's an absolutely extraordinary example of how rugged and reliable the Vickers machine gun was. That's why, to this very day, it really functions as the superlative. It functions as the bright and shining example of what the recoil-operated, belt-fed, water-cooled machine gun was capable of doing.